Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Sabi Sands. It's a beautiful afternoon here, and thankfully some clouds have rolled in. Even though the sun is shining now, there are quite a few clouds up in the sky, and it's kept us nice and cool today. Now, I'm teamed up with VM on camera again this afternoon, and we've also got a guest on board, a guide named Stefan Winterboer. He's been in the industry for 16 years now and is incredibly knowledgeable, and he's just spending some time here to look at some feasibility of possibly doing some walking safaris live and just getting a feel of how our operation works and giving us some great insights into how he thinks we can improve our operation. So you may have seen him on the waterhole camera, and very fortunate to have him here. I know him from a lodge where I used to work in the Sabi Sands, and great to be with him again. So that's our team this afternoon, and we are just approaching an area where we left a young male leopard this morning. We have seen him for the first time this morning. His name is Bahuti. He was born in August 2012, and we left him not far from here. So we're just slowly driving into the area. He could well have moved off, but there's only one way to find out, and that is to go to the last place where we saw him. And he could be here, but like I say, it's not likely. He moved a huge distance this morning. He was moving very intently, and the fact that he was moving through a territory where we've never seen him before may have contributed to the fact that he was highly mobile and also very cautious, slinking around this potentially virgin territory for him. Like I say, because there has been a lot of cloud cover, it's also cooled things down, and this cooler weather would also have aided the leopard if it was wanting to move and made it more likely that it would move. No. I'm just going to keep sneaking around. He may have just moved a very short distance from one shady guarri bush to another. But failing that, there is a very prominent animal path that we've just driven over. And what I'm going to do is check that path very closely for any tracks, and that may give us an indication of where he's moved to. Brent, on the other hand, is heading to follow up on the leopard that he last saw this morning, and it was actually the grandmother of the leopard we're looking for now. Her name is Karula, and Brent was with her this morning, so he's headed over to look for her. We both could well come up with nothing, and then we'll both have to obviously change our plans accordingly. So this morning he was lying up under the shade of the small little bush to our left. However, what would have changed between then and now is that the shade has shifted over onto the other side of the tree, and that's also a reason why he may have moved to find more shade, but not necessarily moved too far. So we're going to keep slinking around this area. Failing that, I'm going to check this animal trail, and just like humans, animals will tend to move on the easiest path available. So if there's a prominent pathway nearby, they tend to slip onto it just like we would. And it's difficult to see here, but I'm just beginning to drive down it, and you can see not very well worn in this section, but in between my two wheels is a small animal trail, and as we drive along it, you will notice it becomes more prominent. Here, for example, there's a good sandy patch where I can check for tracks, so I'm just going to pull over to the side. The other thing that we would take into consideration here is because it is very open, it's easy to walk anywhere. So yes, he may have got onto the path, and it's the only place where we would realistically be able to see his tracks. So worth checking, but now that it becomes thicker, he may have funneled onto this pathway. So we may just drive down it for a short while, checking for any tracks along the way. It's difficult because my vehicle's shadow is covering the area that I would ideally wanting to be looking for the tracks. And as soon as there is a shadow or overcast weather, it becomes very difficult to see tracks, because without the sunlight hitting the tracks from the side, creating a bit of a shadow, it's very difficult to make out if anything's actually been there. Now, if the vegetation was thicker, we would walk here in order to check, but because it's very easy to drive and because we're having very little impact on the environment, it's going to be quickest for us to drive. But what I may do, if Brent's not off his vehicle tracking Karula, I may ask Nikki to link across to him so that we can take a short walk. When you're in a vehicle, you lose a lot of the audio that you typically pick up when you are walking on foot. And audio can be hugely helpful when looking for animals, not just looking, but listening, because there's so many clues that other animals, other than the leopard, for example, that we're looking for now, can provide us with. Well, folks, Brent is not off the vehicle and is looking forward to saying hello to all of you. So we'll catch up with you a little bit later and enjoy Brent and whatever he's got in store for you.
Good afternoon and welcome on Drive with us this afternoon. Oh, lots of flies as it's warmed up. I've got Romeo and camera with me. Just to let you know what we're doing, we're coming to check the last area we had Karula this morning. We'll see if we can find her again. And it's the last vehicle that left her was somewhere in this block over here. There's some vehicle tracks coming out. So we're going to go have a little squiz around there and see what we can find. Hopefully we have some luck this morning, this afternoon, sorry. And then hopefully Scott has some luck on his side. Well, let's get started. We're trying to track where the car came out at the moment, and it's actually sometimes harder than it sounds, especially when in some of these blocks that are quite thick. And also with Karula, we know how often she moves during the day, so okay, I think we're actually a bit further. She was a bit further north than this spot. I just think this is the easiest spot for the car to get out. Watch the thorns. And even though it was quite overcast and cloudy this morning, it's warmed up a lot during the day, but definitely cooler than it was a couple of weeks ago. Good afternoon, Toby. Welcome on Drive with us this afternoon. Toby would like to know whereabouts exactly in Kruger are we driving around. Toby, we're not actually in Kruger itself. We are just to the west of Kruger in a private game reserve called Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is part of the Sabi Sands. it is open to Kruger, so there's no fences between Kruger and the Sabi Sands, so the animals are free to roam. And in terms of the length of Kruger, we're just below halfway in the sort of just below the middle and to the east. Spider. There's the impala. So, what the last reports I heard on Karula was that she was lying up about 100 meters from the impala, and I can see the impala there. So what we're going to do is we're going to check this area around here. And leopards can be incredibly patient and sort of wait near a herd of impala for a whole day, half a day. So we look very carefully under these shady trees, and also if there's a termite mound around, it's always a good spot to check. There's a nice big termite mound behind us here, but I'm just going to have a quick look through this area. Remy, I hope your eyes are sharp this afternoon.
I've been distracted by this guy.
Oh! So that, whoa! He likes Romeo. He jumped right onto the camera. So hopefully he sits for long enough. Nice grasshopper, you can see the camouflage. I can almost feel the legs getting ready for the next leap. Cleaning. But I'm not... And just defecated on me, but that's okay. So we picked this up when we passed under that bush willow. Sorry guys, 1 second. Sorry, stand by one. Oh, then he's gone off the vehicle. I'm not sure which family of grasshopper he belongs to, but is one of the wingless variety. One of the wingless. Sorry, Craig, just stand by one. I'll be with you in one. One of the wingless varieties. So, as I was saying now, there's a very good looking termite mound behind us with some big trees on it. But I'm going to... She could be lying under any one of these little bits of shade, but I'm hoping she's moved towards that big termite mound. You can see the vehicle tracks from the vehicle that was following her this morning. Craig, coming. I'm checking last position in the block to the south of Shabam, and sorry, to the south of Philemon's cut line, just to the west of Shabam Junction. So the vehicle tracks following her went over there, and if I was a leopard and there's Impala just over there, I think this nice big termite mound in front of us would be the spot I would choose to spend my day watching them and planning. It's got shade, it's got elevation. Next, what was that update from Scott? Well, that's what that teaches you, trying to predict what a leopard's going to do. Because obviously, as soon as you try to predict, they prove you wrong. Just gonna jump off for a second, see if I can find any tracks on this termite mound, because it is a spot she might have used. No such luck. So I think we're going to check back towards where we were a little bit earlier, on the last vehicle tracks that had her. The only thing that seems to have been using that termite mound recently is a slender mongoose. A lot of dung on top of the termite mound. It's possible she might be a little bit further to the south. Yeah, some vehicle tracks. Afternoon, Jody. Welcome on Drive. Jody would like to know, was that whole thing I was climbing up just now a termite mound? Yes, Jody, it was a big one, and quite often you can only see a small section of the termite mound, and there's still quite a lot under the ground. That one looks to be a dormant one, though. It's not an active one. Scott coming. We've got a retired buffalo here. When we get a nice open patch of sand like this, it's always good to check for tracks. Scott coming. Can't see any tracks here. Scott, do you copy? Next, you know, there's just quite a lot of talking on the Game Drive channel at the moment. Can you ask Scott, when he was following Bahuti this morning, did he go past, was he west of the Shabam Road, and did he go past an old set of buffalo bones? What did you say? Didn't say it.
Is that a thing? No, that's a different one.
Next, Jason says it's a different carcass. I was just wondering because there's male leopard tracks and vehicle tracks from this morning, just to the west of Shabam Road. So I was just wondering if that was Scott's, because we're still trying to find Karula, but there were 2 leopards in this block this morning, so finding the right set of vehicle tracks is proving interesting. Yeah, so what I think I'm going to do now that we've sort of bashed around in that bush for a little bit with no success is I'm going to go back to the exact last position that I knew she was exactly, so where we saw her last this morning, and then try to probably work the tracks from there. I think that's our best bet. I'm very confident she hasn't crossed out of the block to the east or to the north, so there's very strong possibility that she's still in here somewhere, but if she's sleeping under a bush, it's so difficult to see. So let's head to where we knew she was exactly. So this is where we came out this morning, and for those who were with us on game drive this morning, where she climbed up that termite mound and posed beautifully for us, was just off to my right. Next coming. Next, I'm going to be off the vehicle for quite a bit. I don't know if Scott's got anything. Copy. So I'm just going to drive into the last spot I saw, and then I'm going to start walking and looking for tracks. As we could take us a little while to figure out exactly where she went, so in the meantime we're going to cross back to Scott for a little bit to see how he's doing that side.
Welcome back, and so far we actually have had some luck. It's been a small breakthrough. We've found where his tracks have crossed this main road that we're driving up now. So what we're going to do is we're going to link ahead, and there's a road just up ahead of us that can take us and loop us ahead of where he was moving, and hopefully we will either find him or more tracks crossing on these roads. So rather than following each track or footprint and staying behind him, we are going to loop ahead in the hope that we are predicting kind of his movements. And it is interesting because he has been moving in one set direction this morning. we've got a good feel of the direction he's moving in, and it's been a northwesterly direction, and that's what helped us to find his tracks crossing this main road. So, we have seen something. I'm just going to jump out and check quickly. It's on the other side of the road. Oh, interesting, Viam. Very interesting. Now, I could be wrong because I haven't actually seen this leopard's footprints, but they look quite small, so this could be a female's tracks. But then again, some of them are confusing me, so I'm not entirely sure whether it's a female or a male, but it is heading down the road in this direction. Well, it's a little bit confusing. There's fresh vehicle tracks, and I would assume that no vehicles would have driven down this road in between game drives, which is when this leopard was moving. It was moving between when we last left him this morning and now. So I'm not sure that anyone would have driven this road yet, but you never know out here. So we will keep going. His tracks have been run over by the vehicle tracks, indicating that there was a vehicle here after him. So if it is a male, of course, I did mention that I'm not sure if it is indeed a male. Anyway, we will be grateful that there are leopard tracks heading in the same direction that we are. And even if they are a bit older, and it is a different leopard, that leopard could have made a kill here 2 days ago, and maybe nobody's actually seen the kill up a tree. So even though tracks may be old, they're still worth taking seriously, because once a leopard does make a kill, it can be in the same place for 3 days, for example. Okay. And that's one thing that I myself know I'm not good at, is I get so excited as soon as I see a track. I kind of lose focus, and it's important to try and stay calm, as exciting as it may be when you are tracking animals, so that you don't make silly mistakes and just assume that maybe, those tracks are the same leopard that we have been looking for. Now, there's a very good sandy patch, which will be easy for us to check for any tracks up ahead here. So that is what I'm going to do. Well, if he did carry on moving in the direction that he has been moving, there's a strong probability we may find some of his tracks coming towards us, crossing over this little riverbed ahead of us. Okay, well, good news and bad news. The bad news is I could not find the male's tracks. Was that the bad news? That's the bad news. Can't find the male's tracks. The good news is I have seen the female's tracks, and they're still heading down the road. And it's a huge, huge speculation, but I am going to throw it out there. Because he is relatively young, he may still rely on his mother for stealing the odd meal. And what this means is that he may have been looking for her this morning in the hope that she's going to have some kind of food or kill that he could then steal from her or help himself to. And when he was moving this morning, he was very intently following what we thought was potentially the trail of another leopard. So imagine if he's tracked his mother over this vast distance this morning, probably around 3 or 4 miles, and imagine this is his mother, and seeing them together would be really interesting. So it's a huge speculation, but I am going to throw it out there. So when we start feeling like we are in an area where they could be, it's important obviously to keep checking for tracks. And not only that, but looking around for the actual animal. There's no good looking down at the road for tracks when you could therefore overlook the animal lying right next to the road. So that's what's going on here. That's what we have to deal with. The female's tracks are still going, which is good. And good places for us to search are in shady areas, it's still a bit warm, elevated positions like termite mounds, and lying up in trees. Now there's specific trees that they would be more likely to lie in than others, those which have large horizontal branches that are comfortable to lie on. And in this area, the marula tree is typically the best and most comfortable tree for leopards, and that's the tree we most often see them in. I don't know this area that we're in very well. We are in Arathusa and haven't spent much time on this property, so it's really exciting to be in this slightly new environment. We've just got a question through from Marianne. Good afternoon, Marianne, and welcome on board. Marianne's interested to know if I get nervous when I get off the vehicle, and nervous would probably be the wrong word, but I guess you become more alert and aware of your surroundings. When we're driving around like this, I feel very, very safe in the vehicle, and I know that in this vehicle we are 99% safe and don't really have anything to worry about. Whereas on foot, it's a very different story. You're very vulnerable on foot. You also can be very quiet on foot. And if you're quiet walking up to something and you get very close to it and startle it, it may feel the need to either attack you and or run away. So there is a lot more danger when you are on foot. But because of the relevant training and also practical experience, having encountered dangerous game with more experienced guides when I was training, you slowly learn how the animals will respond to you and also how you should respond to their response. So I don't get nervous, but I do certainly become more alert and aware that I am in a dangerous environment. But I guess it's a healthy respect that you have to maintain. Otherwise, if you did get lackadaisical out here, you could end up squashed pretty quickly. So I hope that answers your question, Marianne, and I've just taken this moment to not only answer your question, but also just to have the vehicle silence. And that will again allow us to hear alarm calls or hear any interesting audio that may attract us to the leopards that we are hopefully nearby. tracks of this leopard, I'm not sure which one, whether it's the same one from this morning or a different one, but they are still heading down the road in the same direction we're heading, so can't ask for much more than that at the moment. And I hope Brent's coming along well with his tracking. He really also loves being on foot, and it certainly is one of the best feelings you could imagine when you find one of these large, beautiful animals on foot after having tracked them down. Copy, thanks. And message just confirmed from Nikki in the final control. Brent is still off the vehicle searching, and I've got a feeling he's going to get lucky this afternoon. I've got my money on him, so let's wait and see. Can't help but stop and scour any riverbed you drive through when you're on safari. There's this, it's not a misconception, but a strange association of riverbeds with leopards, and I'm high up on the list of people who always stop and scan riverbeds intensely hoping to see a leopard. 9 times out of 10 you don't, but occasionally you get lucky, and I guess it's the fact that it's just such a beautiful environment to see leopards in that you subconsciously associate that they're going to be there very often. I often wonder, while we are driving around like this looking for hard to find animals such as the leopard, I often wonder how we ever actually do manage to find them. When you look around here, the amount of hiding places there are, it's a miracle that we find them. But it also brings up an important point, and that is that without having lots of different vehicles driving around these properties on the same radio network, helping one another, sharing intelligence about tracks or animals that have been found, and all working collectively, working alone out here, we wouldn't see a tenth of what we see. So the teamwork and sharing of sightings is a very important aspect of the safari industry that a lot of people may not really think of before they come here. Only 3 vehicles allowed in a sighting. Sometimes with the young cubs, for example, there will only be 1 vehicle allowed into that sighting per drive. Now, how do you choose which lucky guide and his guests get to go and see that cub and slowly habituate it to the vehicle rather than rushing in and putting 3 vehicles there, possibly scaring the cub? The idea is to do it very slowly, and that way habituate the cub naturally to vehicles without putting any pressure on them. So those are the kind of behind the scenes dynamics that guides do have to deal with out here. These female leopard tracks continue down the road here, and I think we are going to be approaching a waterhole at some stage, so maybe that's where she will be lying up. Well, the road is just on quite a drastic curve, and not always, but when that does happen, the animal may veer off knowing that the road may straighten again. So instead of following the road every step of the way, it only uses when it is convenient. And I can even see now the road is bending back quite drastically. There's also a riverbed here, And leopards get to know these areas very well, and will therefore know a few shortcuts, essentially, you could say. James in Kansas City, good afternoon and welcome along with us. James is feeling a little bit lost and would like to know our bearings. Obviously James knows the properties very well and even knows the roads and probably has access to a map, I'm guessing. And James, we're in Arathusa, so basically we're in the far northeastern corner of Arathusa on a road called Parallel Road North, which is a road that runs parallel to a road called Triple M, which is a main boundary road between Djuma, Arathusa and Sibambili to the north. So that's where we are, James, and I hope that helps you. Well, there's been no sign of these tracks for a while now, so it could be that our luck has run out. I was hoping they were going to pop back up onto the road. But no sign of them yet. And what's important to also realize is that yes, we may be tracking leopard, but obviously we're very alert, driving slowly, and anything we would see of interest along the way we are going to stop and enjoy. It's just sometimes that you find there are large open gaps between sightings, and I haven't even seen a bird that we could stop and show you yet this afternoon, and that's how it goes sometimes. Other drives you cannot drive where you cannot get to where you're planning on getting to because there's so much along the way. So just the reality of the safari experience. There's only so much you can control, and that's very little basically of what you actually end up seeing. Sorry, Nicky, go again. Okay, well, we've just got an interesting update regarding Bahuti, which is the male leopard myself and VM were looking at this morning, and his mother's name is Tundi, and she has given birth to another cub which is around 4 months old now. So that does make sense. It's usually at around 18 months to 2 years to 24 months that young leopard will be released from their parents' care, or rather chased away, or at least they try to chase them away, in order to mate and then give birth to the next litter. And he was born in August 2012, which means at 2 years it would have been August 2014, and if she mated them or they're about 3 months later, it would have been the gestation period, so that'll take you to November, December, January, and now we're a couple of months ahead of her. So maybe it was just before August 2014, that she kicked him out and mated. And even though she does have other cubs now, she may still tolerate some insightings and may even move around with them. I've once had a leopard sighting with 2 different generations. It was a 2-year-old son and 2 cubs of around 4 months age, as well as their father and mother, so 5 leopards together, and they actually did that on numerous occasions. It wasn't a once-off random sighting. They became known to kind of stick together for short periods of time. So these bizarre things do happen in nature, even though most textbooks would say otherwise. Okay, well, no luck with the leopard, but that's not a problem at all, because we've had so much great leopard viewing that we're certainly not feeling the pressure to find one. If anything, I would like some time to go and look at other animals. So that is exactly what we're going to do, unless of course we bump into a leopard along the way. I'm thinking of heading across to the hyena den sites. It's been maybe 4 days since we gave you an update of what's going on there. Myself and was it VM or Romeo yesterday? It was Romeo yesterday afternoon. We did try and go there yesterday afternoon, but there was no adults present, and the cubs stayed hiding down in the den, which is a burrow within an old termite mound, and we're not too far from there. So that is my plan. I'm not sure if Brent's had any luck with the leopard he's been tracking, but I'm sure he's not going to give up on that. Sorry, I'm just listening to the Game Drive channel. It is quite busy, and every now and then I just need to stop. Aubrey, what you got there? Afternoon, Roy, how you doing? Afternoon, everyone. From the power lines. Yeah, I've been following the tracks. It was one we were following this morning. Okay. This is turning into a little bit of chaos here. Sorry, folks. Not giving you much attention, but there's a lot going on there. So I'll just update Roy on the radio because there's another Game Drive vehicle behind us. So and Nikki, is Brent busy? Sorry, Nikki, the Game Drive channel is a bit chaotic this afternoon. Is Brent busy? We're going to cut across to Brent, and I'll catch up with you a little bit later, folks.
So he's where? No problem. Welcome back, guys. We're still checking this area for Karula. We don't have any tracks coming out, so we're going really, really slowly and checking very carefully. So in the meantime, I'm going to find something for you to identify. Seems like my questions are too easy. You guys are getting them too quickly. So, another tree, and you can have a look at the leaves closely here. And I have showed you this tree before, and there's two different types of insects that utilize this tree to keep their eggs in. I'm not going to say too much, otherwise it'll become too easy. And there we go, you can have a look at the tree itself. There's a couple of them around here. So remember, send your answers to questions@wildearth.tv, or just use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Also works well as a fly spot. Probably just sleeping under a bush right here, and we just haven't seen her. And we checked the closest water. I'm going to do one last little sweep through this area. I mean, it's always possible that we have missed her tracks crossing the road. If that's the case, we're going to head down towards Weaver's Nest and check along the edge of the drainage line there. So, a lot of you guys are looking for an update on the lions we saw briefly this morning. They have found them this afternoon, but they have moved further north from our boundary, unfortunately. So, no luck in that department. And there was one Matimba also found this afternoon. To the south and to the north and east of our northeastern corner boundary. Correct. Okay, so I think we've flogged this area to death a little. So we're gonna move along. Oh, do you see where I'm looking, Romeo? Okay, so directly between those two light-colored trees, that names I'm not going to mention right now, there's a very orange combretum. So a little bit to the left of the camera. Now go straight. Straight past the fork-tailed dronga to the tree behind it. Keep going.
That's us.
And that's it. Now just wait carefully. Should hop out into the open again.
Looking on the grass for the...
No, in the middle of that tree. It's just behind the branch. I think be patient. It's disappeared. I'm just looking at. It's moved. Unfortunately, there was a very nice bird there. There was a golden-tailed woodpecker, but it's disappeared. Okay. So, to the left of the dead stump on the termite mound. And up. To the left. So to the little jackalberry at the back. Up a little bit. Oh, there. Stop. Down tiny bit. Okay, where did it hop to now? Well, the birds are proving a little bit difficult today. I thought he was going to sit for a bit. Let me just move forward slightly, see if we get... Oh, nope. I don't know where it's gone. No, we'll keep checking. Okay, I think maybe if it's like the last time, maybe just the first three. Otherwise, we're going to be listing again. Chris, Raisa, IC and Kim, RC, sorry, and Kim are correct. It was a silver cluster leaf. One of my personal favorite trees. There's a nice one in front of us here. Very interesting that the wood is quite often used as fence posts because that wood is termite resistant. And also a late answer from Natalie that is also correct.
Is the bark used to something?
Yes, the bark is used to make rope as well. You can strip the bark and make quite a strong rope from it. Good afternoon, Nigel. Welcome on Game Drive. Nigel would like to know whether Djuma has moved away from the baboon carcass. He has not, but there is quite a lot of vehicles going through there at the moment. But maybe a bit later we will go into that area to see if we can find him again, or either Scott or myself. But at the moment it is very busy, lots of cars. So we're checking around the other areas first. Next coming. Is any update from Scott? Okay guys, we're gonna keep fighting the good fight in this area, see if we can find something. So in the meantime, we're going to cross over to Scott. I think he's got a little surprise for you guys, so enjoy.
Welcome back, and we are in some serious luck here at the hyena den site this afternoon. So VM's going to show you around, and if it is your first time on Safari Live, you're in for a treat, because these hyena cubs are seriously cute and also quite inquisitive. Now this is the largest of the three cubs. It was probably born a month or so ahead of the smaller two that you'll see later. So it's two different sets of cubs, obviously from two different mothers, and that's about all we know about the dynamics of this clan. They are very interesting animals, and in terms of their clan structure and how big this clan actually is, we're not sure. Sometimes other hyena will come past and greet these hyena but not stay here. So hard to keep track of exactly what's going on, and that keeps it exciting for us. It would be boring if we knew everything about these animals. Now, this is a sub-adult, you could say. You'll notice its coat is very distinctly spotty, and they are named the spotted hyena for this reason, but as they become older, the spots tend to fade away and are not as prominent. So that, combined with the light coloration of its coat, indicates that it's a sub-adult. Probably maybe a year and a half would be a guess from me, but anywhere in and around a few months of that period I think would be close to accurate in terms of its age. But again, just as a guesstimate from myself as to how old I think it is. And hopefully we'll get to see the mother that's currently lying down behind a bush, and you'll be able to then compare a fully grown adult to a sub-adult. Now, this won't be the first time that we need to employ some patience, as currently we don't have great views, but what I can assure you is that these cubs often are very playful and inquisitive, and may very well at some stage come right up to the vehicle so close that it'll make filming them difficult for VM, and that's happened on countless visits to this den site. They also do sometimes get a little bit excited and play around with themselves. We just need them to do that in our field of view. And it really is funny watching the three of them play around with one another. And even though it is play, it's a very important part of these young hyenas' life. They are essentially learning how to wrestle with one another, and this playful combat will provide them with hugely valuable life lessons, as they will have to compete with other hyena when they grow old, and may even need to compete with one another as siblings. There's an intensive hierarchy in hyena clans, and siblings will compete to try and ensure that they are high up on this hierarchical ladder. So it's fair to say they're already establishing themselves as individuals within the clan, even as they play around with one another. It's also been interesting to see how they are beginning to venture further and further afield, and that's normal for any animal that grows up. It'll slowly become bolder and bolder, which is necessary. They couldn't be stuck around this den site forever, and they certainly are beginning to stretch further and further from the entrance to their den, which is slightly obscured from where we are now, but we should be able to reposition at some stage, and I think I am actually going to try and reposition now. There is a little gap that we can get into. Well, the cubs have moved. It looks like their mother is also planning on moving a little bit. So, all in all, that reposition has worked out well for us. I don't think it was our movement that necessarily induced any change of behavior from them. They are relaxed with our vehicle and have been experienced and exposed to lots of vehicles already, and it's such an important part of the habituation process that is critical for us to ensure, because without it we will not have relaxed animals to view in future years, and if they're not relaxed with us and we don't get to see them, obviously you, the viewers, and all the tourists that do come here would not be nearly as spoilt as they are. So it is critical to understand that without the habituation of these animals, they cannot show their beauty and we cannot enjoy their beauty. And without that, there would be no tourism here. So now look at these two youngsters already. There will already likely be some dominance between the two. We haven't been able to establish which is more dominant than the other yet, because as you can see they look identical. Now, for those of you who are seeing hyena cubs for the first time now, you may be changing your thoughts about hyena. They've typically got a lot of bad publicity over the years, and people tend to dislike them for, I guess, a subconscious reason that would have been installed in them over the years from bad publicity. But they're incredibly cute, and as you can see, the mother loving animals, and more importantly than just their cuteness, they form a vital part of the ecosystem out here. They fill a niche that no other animal does, and that is predominantly allowed by the fact, or yeah, I guess you could say allowed by the fact that they've got incredibly strong jaws, as well as a very powerful digestive system that allows them to crunch through bones and a lot of the waste, you could say, from kills that would ordinarily not be eaten and therefore not recycled efficiently back into the nutrient cycle. So that is their role, I guess, and there's various ways that they go about obtaining their meals. They can hunt and do hunt, but they also do scavenge, as do all predators out here. Lions and leopards will all steal from whichever predator they can overpower, and the hyenas are no different. We've just got a question through from Karen in Texas. Good afternoon, Karen, and welcome to the Hyena Den site. Karen is interested to know that if there is a physiological advantage to them having slightly shorter back legs, longer front legs, and kind of sloped spine, obviously caused by that difference in leg lengths. And there is indeed, I guess, a similar animal that you could kind of relate to as a wildebeest, which also has a similar anatomy in terms of its legs and its back. And what you'll find is that animals with this kind of body structure are potentially, or very often, long distance or endurance animals that can cover very large distances, and basically their chest cavity is very large, hence the long front legs to house the organs required for endurance, and they certainly do cover huge distances, be it when they are scavenging or when they are hunting. They are not ambush predators. They'll often run their prey down to points of exhaustion, and that obviously requires huge stamina. Good question, Karen, and I hope that made sense to you. Well, can you believe this nursing pose that the mother was trying there for a moment? It could be that she's already nursed these cubs enough, and that's why she's rolling over from side to side, because she doesn't want them to nurse anymore. Although, now she appears to have given in. No, she's had enough. You've had enough food. Listen to the little baby crying for more food. I think I can hear some branches breaking off to our right. I'm not sure what it is. It is very thick. I'm just keeping my eyes peeled. Maybe an elephant's going to pop up, or something large, buffalo, hard to say. But there could well be a visitor coming to the den site at any stage. But what Viam's doing now is taking it across to the other side of the vehicle, and over here we can see the younger sub-adults. Not to worry in the world. Still a flawless face, and that is certainly going to change over the coming years. They do live a highly confrontational lifestyle, be it with other hyenas and or predators. And it was just the other day that we were viewing a hyena that was missing a tail as well as half of her ear. And wouldn't it be wonderful to know how exactly that happened? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to reposition again very slightly. These cubs are appearing to be putting on a bit of a show, so apologies for the backwards and forwards, but I think it's going to be worthwhile. Is that looking okay, Viam? Oh, well, it looks like the mother's given in. The little cubs were whining gently, begging for one last little suckle. And shame, while this one's friends are having the joy of suckling, the older cub can only gnaw on a little stick because its mother's not here, and this mother will certainly not tolerate it drinking any of her milk. So nature can be tough. Imagine having a few tiny little babies and only two of them can eat and the other has to sit there watching them. There would be a large amount of tears and screaming, I'm sure. Just got a great question through from Raisa. Good afternoon and welcome. Raisa's made an interesting assumption, and that is that could one assume that the two smaller cubs are of the same sex because they both appear to be equal in terms of dominance? One doesn't appear to be clearly outcompeting the other. And yes, that is the case, but it may be too young in their lives for that to be confirmed, and it is difficult to say. What I can tell you, though, is that there is a lot of competition between hyena, especially male and females will be more dominant than males in hyena society. Afternoon, go ahead. No problem. No problem at all. I'm not sure on the protocols, but I don't see that it would be too bad to have two vehicles here, but again, I don't know the protocol. Ryan, just give me 5 minutes and then it's all yours. Okay folks, well, just to keep you updated, Ryan did try and get a hold of me on the radio, but I had my game drive channel turned down, so he's arrived Janelle thinking that there would be no one here, and there technically can only be one vehicle here, but that will only be up to a point until these cubs are relaxed. It's not our decision to make, though, when that will happen. That will be a joint discussion between all of the guides in the area, and that will probably be happening tomorrow at a rangers meeting. And it may be opened up to a two-vehicle sighting because, as you can see, they are very relaxed with us. Anyway, back to Rice's question regarding the potential sex of the two younger cubs. It is a fair assumption they could either both be male or both be female, because if there was a male and if there was a female, it could well be that the female would already be out competing her brother, and it's a unique scenario in the animal kingdom that the females are more dominant than the males, and are even bigger and often stronger, therefore, than the males. And it's said that the lowest ranking female will be ranked higher than the alpha male. So well, that gives you an idea of the hierarchy. So we're just going to spend a few more minutes here, and then, as we often do, we'll make space for Ryan and let him enjoy this sighting. And again, it's so important to share all of the wonderful things that are happening out here. And what that means for us is that we can go and look for something else. So hardly a bad situation to be in. Okay, copy, that's perfect. No rush, I'll be leaving the den site shortly, but you can just stay on me, or whatever, depending on what Brent's up to as I leave. But I'll be another minute or two here. Listen to this. Now, even if we watch closely here, the cub that was there first has probably got the most productive nipple that they would have established, and that's why the other cub is whining and begging and trying to get to it, not even really bothering to suckle on the other nipples available. But because they look so similar, these little cubs, it's hard to tell who's who half the time, or all the time, and therefore we cannot guarantee that simply because the one on the right is in pole position now, that it is always the case that it's in pole position. Okay, well, one last view, and look at that for a little funny stance. Really checking us out, and I wonder what's running through this hyena's little head. Anyway, like I say, it was my error by having the game drive vehicle down and therefore not alerting Ryan that I'm here. So it's only fair that we make space for him and go and search for something else. So that's not a problem at all, like I said. Apparently there's a lot of people that have noticed that the sub-adult hyena had much longer fur than the adults, and that is normal, and again a characteristic feature of sub-adult hyenas. They've got longer fur and more spotted fur, so there's nothing wrong with it. It's doing perfectly well, and the adult female with the two little cubs is also 100% healthy, but their hair does thin as they become older, and their spots also do fade.